Welcome into another bonus episode here at Hockey Inside Out. The goaltending situation for next year, Sam Montembeault and Jake Allen. Guys, into your crystal balls, what do you forecast for these two guys with this organization moving towards September training camp?
Well, I think they're both going to be back, and I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Montembeault is the number one goalie starting next season with Jake Allen as the backup. I mean, Sam Montembeault on a not very good hockey team this year. He's got a .500 record after the game against Tampa, 14-14-3 with a .905 save percentage without a lot of help in front of him. So, good signing by Kent Hughes. He's making $1 million a year, Montembeault, just above the NHL minimum. Jake Allen has a new contract that kicks in next season at $3.85 million. So the two goalies combined are making less than half of what Carey Price was making on the salary cap. They don't need to be in an urgent rush, the Canadiens, as far as deciding what their goaltending future is going to be. Caden Primo, who for a long time has been sort of thought of as the goalie of the future, that's sort of fading a little bit. At some point, you're going to want him to get in and play more NHL games. But I think Montembeault's done enough this season to show that at least for next season, he could be the number one guy. Does that factor into maybe the Canadiens try and move Jake Allen in the offseason if there is interest in him? Or maybe they wait until the trade deadline next year, hoping he can have a good season next year. But I think Sam Montembeault has surprised a lot of people. I mean, he played through last season with a really painful wrist injury on his blocker side that he had surgery in the offseason. He's healthy this year, and he's played really good. He's a really calm guy. Like, nothing seems to really faze him that much. And he's been really good. So I think they'll both be back. But we're seeing already right now, Montembeault has basically become the number one goalie. Marty St. Louis giving him a string of consecutive starts. And I think we'll see, the last 10, 11 games this season, I think he's going to probably play, I'd say, at least 7 of them.
And I think ultimately they've got to make a decision on Primo. Is this guy going to be able to step in there, or that's going to give them a better read on, what they want to do with their goaltending situation? They're obviously in a good place right now, both the guys under contract. But is Primo going to be able to play in the NHL? And if he's not, they're going to have to look elsewhere to get somebody that they hope that can develop to be part of the NHL club. And I mean, Jake Allen, he might draw some interest in the offseason, but they're going to have to get something back in a goaltending position, obviously, to be able to do the job and play some games. But Sam Montembeault has taken full advantage of his opportunity. He's done a great job and has shown that he's able to play and contribute and consistently give his team a chance to win. So interesting times, but I'm more concerned about their depth at that position before they even entertain the thought of changing those two guys that they have currently under contract.
Yeah, I don't think there's any rush to move Jake Allen. I think, if anything, you're looking at maybe next year at the trade deadline, unless they feel that Caden Primo has proven something this year and he needs to finally be in the NHL. They feel like they owe it to him, but I don't know if he's at that level. I don't think he's as good as he was last year at the end of the season for the Laval Rocket, where he had his best stretch of play in the playoffs. He basically carried them. Not to take anything away from them, but he was absolutely incredible in that playoff run. But to put into context what Sam Montembeault has done this season, there's a newer statistic for goalies called goals saved above expectations, and it basically takes the shots that goalies have faced and accumulates based on the location and the type of shot what the expected goals rate is for each shot over the course of the season, and then says, like, how many goals has this goaltender allowed above or below the expected rate. And Sam Montembeault, playing only 33 games, is 7th in the NHL in goals saved above expectation. He's sandwiched between Andrei Vasilevsky and Igor Shesterkin and Jake Ottinger. Those are the guys that are most close to him this season. Now, if this level of play from Sam Montembeault is sustainable going forward, if this is who he actually is, that's found money for the Montreal Canadiens, because that's a guy that, if he can maintain that at like a 50 game per season pace, that's not a 1B, that's a 1A, right? That's a starting goaltender in the National Hockey League, and a good one. So much, I think, next season and the next couple of seasons for the Montreal Canadiens and where they're going to be going forward depends on if this season is a blip on the radar for Sam Montembeault, or if this is who he actually has developed into. Goaltenders are pretty inconsistent in the NHL year to year. It's really hard to predict them. There's only a few that continue to maintain greatness. If he can be in that pack, that's a huge hole filled for the Montreal Canadiens.
But Montembeault, you're right, and he makes a lot of highlight reel saves. When you're talking about that stat, there's a lot of highlight reel saves that he makes. And talk about Caden Primo. You got to remember, he was a 7th-round draft pick. There's reasons why he was a 7th-round draft pick. And I remember talking with an NHL scout a little while ago, and he was telling me, scouts make mistakes. There's guys, Marty saying he was never drafted, right? But he says most of the time, the guys that were drafted 5th, 6th, 7th rounds, there was reasons why, and as they go along in their careers, those reasons are highlighted. And that might be something that we're seeing with Caden Primo now. Again, there's exceptions to the rule. But again, it's not like he was a 1st or 2nd round star goalie. He played really well after being drafted in university, which raised his stock. But maybe it's a case of he's back to that guy who was a 7th round draft pick. So as you mentioned, they don't need to be in a rush. Like this rebuild is 2-3 years still to go on. They're going to reach a point where they're going to have to decide, okay, is Montembeault our number one goalie? Could it be Primo? It's not going to be Jake Allen just because of his age, and Jake Allen realizes that. Or are we drafting a goalie this year at the draft, another goalie? Or are we making a trade at some point to get a goalie who can be a number one goalie? But again, the Canes don't need to be in any kind of a rush to do that. I think they're happy with the goaltending situation they have right now for the next year or two.
Well, for the Canadiens right now, guys, moving forward towards the summer draft or even towards free agency, moving to that point, if you believe Sam Montembeault is your guy, do you want to lock him up and give him a 3-year deal, maybe a 4-year deal, if you think you're going to roll the dice and get him on a cheap deal, as Mark Bergevin did with Brendan Gallagher on his first contract on a cheap deal that he had for 6 years?
Well, again, they don't need to be in a rush because he's signed for next season. So you go through next season, and then around this time next year, you make a decision, I guess, on what you want to do with them.
Yeah, and we all know some goaltenders that were exceptional one year, and then next year, oops, the wheels fell off. So you don't want to be in that boat where you've got guys on long-term deals, and ouch, they can't get the job done anymore.
The other thing, too, they got to still sign Cole Caulfield, and the salary cap moving forward, Kent Hughes needs to have a better idea of how much money he can afford to spend on goaltending. That's another thing that's going to be factored in.
And goaltending is definitely one of those areas where I think certainty matters more necessarily than cost savings or potential cost savings. If Montembeault repeats this next season, what more are you paying him per year? Probably like a couple extra million, right? As opposed to if you were to sign right now, it'd probably be worth maybe $3 per year, just based on his status in the NHL. Maybe you end up having to pay him $5 per year if he does this again next year. So, would you rather be saddled with what Detroit got with Nedeljkovic, where he had one great year and then now he can't stop a puck to save his life and you have to bury him in the AHL? Or you rather pay a little bit more for something you're more sure of? I think you take the second option there every time.
Yeah, they won't be paying another goalie $10.5 million moving forward.
No,
this
I don't think
makes
so.
no sense.
Otherwise, they might be going to Phoenix, Arizona Coyotes at some point.
With an $80 million salary cap, or roughly $80 million, that doesn't make any sense.
It's amazing. The Montembeault story has been fascinating because a year ago he had an injury, and you wonder if he'd be part of the Habs. And now we could be talking about him being the long-term goalie for this organization moving forward. Don't forget to submit your questions and comments here at Hockey Inside Out. We look forward to conversing about that in a future episode. Check out the YouTube page for all the Hockey Inside Out episodes. And for the newsletter, head on by the MontrealGazette.com/newsletters. And for bonus content and full episodes, head on by Hockey Inside Out. On behalf of Rick, Andrew, and Stu, wish you a great week. We'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.